You know what nobody tells you? The thing that's killing your potential isn't failure. It's not rejection. It's not even fear. It's comfort. It's that soft, warm blanket of familiarity you've wrapped around your life so tightly that you can't even feel yourself suffocating anymore. Carl Jung understood something most people refuse to accept. Staying safe is the most dangerous thing you can do. Because while you're protecting yourself from discomfort, you're also protecting yourself from growth, from meaning, from ever becoming who you're actually capable of being. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something that genuinely scared you? Not skydiving or bungee jumping. I'm talking about real risk. The kind that makes your hands shake because you're about to reveal something true about yourself. The kind that threatens the image you've carefully constructed. The kind that might actually change your life instead of just giving you a story to tell at parties. If you can't remember, you're not alone. Most people haven't taken a real risk in years, and they wonder why they feel stuck, why they feel hollow, why nothing they achieve seems to matter. Here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Your psyche doesn't care about your comfort. It cares about your wholeness, and wholeness requires you to face exactly what you've been avoiding. The shadow doesn't live in the scary places. It lives in the safe ones, in the routines you refuse to question, in the relationships you maintain out of obligation, in the career you stay in because leaving would mean admitting you've been lying to yourself about what you actually want. The first hidden cost. You stop growing when you stop risking, let's be brutally honest. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago, right? Except maybe you are. Maybe you have the same complaints, the same frustrations, the same dreams you never act on. You tell yourself you're building security, you're being responsible, you're waiting for the right time. But Jung would tell you that you're doing something else entirely. You're choosing psychological death over psychological growth. Think about someone like Steve Jobs. Got fired from Apple, the company he founded. That should have destroyed him. Instead, it forced him into territory he never would have explored if he'd stayed safe. He started NXT and Pixar. He had to face parts of himself he'd been avoiding. And when he came back to Apple, he wasn't the same person. He was integrated. He was whole. He created the iPhone not because he played it safe, but because getting kicked out taught him what comfort never could. You don't need to be Steve Jobs to understand this principle. Maybe you've been in the same job for 7 years complaining about it every single day, but never applying anywhere else. Maybe you've been in a relationship where you're performing a version of yourself that isn't real because being authentic feels too risky. Maybe you're keeping friends who drain you because being alone feels scarier than being fake. Here's what happens psychologically when you choose comfort over growth. Your world shrinks. Your tolerance for discomfort decreases. Your capacity for change atrophies. You become more rigid, more defensive, more invested in maintaining the life you have than creating the life you want. And the worst part? You don't even notice it happening. It's like boiling a frog. The temperature rises so slowly that by the time you realize you're dying, you don't remember what being alive felt like. Try this right now. Identify one area of your life where you've been choosing comfort over growth. Just one. Don't judge it. Don't fix it yet. Just acknowledge it. Say it out loud if you have to, because you can't change what you won't admit exists. Remember this, the person you could become is always on the other side of the risk you refuse to take. The second hidden cost. Your shadow gets stronger while you get weaker. Jung taught that whatever you don't integrate, you project. And whatever you don't face in yourself, you start seeing everywhere else. When you live in comfort, when you avoid challenge, when you refuse to confront the parts of yourself that scare you, those parts don't disappear. They go underground, they become your shadow. And your shadow doesn't play fair. It shows up as anxiety you can't explain. As irritation with people who remind you of what you're avoiding in yourself. As self-sabotage right when you're about to succeed. As the voice that tells you you're not ready, not qualified, not enough. And the longer you stay comfortable, the louder that voice gets. Look at someone like Oprah. She talks openly about her past, about abuse, about poverty, about everything she could have hidden to stay comfortable in her public image. But she didn't. She faced her shadow. She integrated it. And that's why millions of people trust her. Not because she's perfect, but because she's whole. Because she stopped performing and started being real. You might not have Oprah's platform, but you have the same choice. You can keep pretending your past doesn't affect you. You can keep ignoring the patterns you repeat. You can keep blaming circumstances instead of looking at your participation in your own suffering. Or you can get uncomfortable. You can look at what you've been avoiding and ask yourself why you've been avoiding it. Here's the psychology. Every time you choose comfort over truth, you're making a deposit in the shadow account. and that account charges interest. The longer you avoid facing something, the more power it has over you. It becomes the thing you organize your entire life around not seeing. You choose jobs that don't challenge you. You choose relationships where you don't have to be vulnerable. You choose routines that keep you numb, all to avoid the 5 minutes of discomfort it would take to just look at what's there. Sound familiar? Most people are running their entire lives like this and they don't even know it. Here's what you do. Pick one thing you've been avoiding, one conversation, one truth about yourself, one pattern you keep repeating. And instead of running from it, sit with it. Not forever, just 5 minutes. See what happens when you stop making it the enemy and start making it information. Remember this, your shadow only controls you when you refuse to look at it. The third hidden cost. You become dependent on others for your identity when you live in comfort, when you never challenge yourself, when you never risk anything real. Something terrifying happens. You lose your internal reference point. You stop knowing who you are independent of your roles, your achievements, your relationships. You become whoever other people need you to be. And you call that being flexible, being mature, being a team player. But Jung would call it what it actually is, psychological slavery. You need their approval to feel okay. You need their validation to feel worthy. You need their presence to feel real. And the moment any of that shifts, the moment someone withdraws their approval or validation or presence, you collapse. Because you built your entire identity on sand, on external conditions you can't control. Think about Matthew McConaughey. He was the rom-com guy that was comfortable, that paid well. But he knew he was capable of more, so he stopped taking those roles. He risked his career, he risked his income. He risked the identity everyone had assigned to him. And for a while, nobody called. For a while, he had to sit with the discomfort of not knowing if he'd made a massive mistake. But then came Dallas Buyers Club. Then came True Detective. Then came an entirely different career built on risk instead of comfort. You're doing the same calculation right now in your own life. Maybe not about movie roles, but about something that matters to you. You're weighing the comfort of staying where people expect you against the risk of becoming who you actually are. And most people choose comfort. Most people stay in the role. Most people never find out what they're capable of because finding out requires disappointing someone. Here's the brutal truth Jung would tell you. As long as you need external validation to feel whole, you will never be whole. You will always be performing. You will always be adjusting yourself to fit what others need from you. You will always be one criticism away from collapse. That's not strength. That's not maturity. That's fragmentation dressed up as social skill. What changes this? Solitude. Real solitude where you're not consuming content, not performing for anyone, not distracting yourself. Just you and whatever comes up when there's no one to perform for. That's where you find out who you are beneath the roles. That's where you build an identity that doesn't collapse when circumstances change. Try this. Spend 30 minutes completely alone. No phone, no music, no distractions, just you. If that sounds unbearable, that's exactly why you need to do it. Because your discomfort with your own company is the measure of how dependent you've become on others for your sense of self. Remember this, you cannot find yourself in the opinions of other people. The fourth hidden cost. You mistake numbness for peace. Here's where it gets really dangerous. You've been comfortable for so long that you've forgotten what aliveness feels like. You think peace is the absence of discomfort. You think contentment is not wanting anything. You think maturity is no longer feeling intensely. But that's not peace. That's sedation. That's what happens when you've suppressed so much of yourself that you can't feel anything anymore. Jung called this the loss of soul, and it's epidemic. People walking around perfectly functional, perfectly responsible, perfectly dead inside. They have the job, the relationship, the house, the routine, and they feel nothing. Or worse, they feel a low-grade despair they can't explain because on paper everything is fine. Look at someone like Jim Carrey. At the height of his success, making millions, loved by everyone, he fell into deep depression. Why? Because he realized he'd been performing his entire life. He'd been chasing success, thinking it would make him feel whole. And when he got there, when he had everything comfort could buy, he felt empty. He had to risk everything he'd built to find out who he was beneath the performance. He had to get uncomfortable to feel alive again. You might not be Jim Carrey, but you know this feeling. That moment when you realize you're going through the motions. When you catch yourself faking enthusiasm. When you can't remember the last time you felt genuinely excited about anything. That's not burnout. That's not depression in the clinical sense. That's your psyche telling you that you've been playing it safe for so long you forgot how to play at all. Here's what nobody tells you. Aliveness requires risk. It requires vulnerability. It requires caring about things that might not work out. It requires wanting things you might not get. Comfort kills all of that. Comfort teaches you to want less, to feel less, to risk less. And eventually you become less. The funny truth? Most people would rather stay numb than face what it would take to feel alive again. Because feeling alive means feeling everything. The grief you've been avoiding, the anger you've been suppressing, the longing you've been denying. Comfort lets you avoid all of that, but the price is your soul. Here's your move: do something today that makes you feel something. Anything. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Create something without knowing if it's good. Reach out to someone you've lost touch with. The goal isn't success. The goal is breaking the pattern of numbness. The goal is remembering what it feels like to be alive instead of just functional. Remember this: if you can't remember the last time you felt truly alive, you're not living safely. You're dying slowly. The fifth hidden cost: you never discover what you're actually capable of. You have your own version of this. Your own vision you've been too scared to pursue. Your own authentic self you've been too scared to reveal. Here's what Jung would tell you: your unlived life doesn't just disappear. It becomes resentment. It becomes regret. It becomes the bitterness you feel watching others succeed at things you were too scared to try. It becomes the voice that tells you it's too late, you're too old, you missed your chance. And that voice gets louder every year you stay comfortable. But here's the truth that changes everything: it's not too late until you're dead. You can start today. You can take one risk today. You can choose discomfort over numbness today. You can step toward the life you actually want instead of the life you settled for. It won't be comfortable. It won't be safe, but it will be real. And real is the only thing that matters. Here's what you do right now. Identify one risk you've been avoiding. One thing you know you should do, but you've been too comfortable to attempt. And take the smallest possible step toward it. Not the whole thing, just the first move. Send the email, make the call. Start the project. Stop waiting for courage and act despite the fear. The truth Jung knew that most people never learn: comfort is a cage you mistake for a home. It's warm, it's familiar, it's safe. And it will kill everything in you that makes life worth living. Your capacity for growth, your connection to your authentic self, your ability to feel deeply, your chance to discover what you're actually capable of. All of it dies in comfort. But here's the beautiful part: you get to choose every single day. You can choose risk over safety, growth over stagnation, authenticity over performance, aliveness over numbness. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's the only path to becoming whole. Jung spent his entire life studying this. He watched people choose comfort and die inside, and he watched people choose risk and come alive. The difference wasn't talent or opportunity or luck. It was willingness. Willingness to face the shadow, willingness to risk the persona, willingness to become who they actually were instead of who they were supposed to be. You have that same choice right now. You can close this and go back to comfortable. Go back to safe. Go back to numb. Or you can let this be the moment everything changes. The moment you stop choosing comfort and start choosing growth. The moment you stop playing it safe and start living like you mean it. The hidden cost of comfort isn't just what you miss. It's who you never become. And that cost is too high, way too high, so take the risk. Face the discomfort. Choose the harder path. Because on the other side of that choice is the person you were always meant to be. And that person is worth every uncomfortable moment it takes to find them.